Hello, it's Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. Gentle listeners, as all of you surely know, there was a horrendous event in Las Vegas on October 1st. In order to get you the details and get them straight and more or less current, we found that Wikipedia, of all places, has a pretty good rundown of how this went. And here it is. On October 1st, 2017, a mass shooting occurred on the Route 91 Harvest Country Music Festival on the Las Vegas Strip in the city of, technically, Paradise, Nevada. A gunman opened fire on the open-air festival crowd from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino across Las Vegas Boulevard during the closing performance by singer Jason Aldean. The shooter was identified as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock of Mesquite, Nevada. He was found dead in his hotel room with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. This incident surpassed the 2016 Orlando nightclub shooting as the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in United States history, with at least 60 at this point fatalities, including the perpetrator, 527 injuries. The Route 91 Harvest Country Music Festival has been held every year since 2014 at Las Vegas Village. That's a 15-acre, 6.1 hectare lot used for outdoor performances. The space itself is 450 meters, 490 yards from the Mandalay Bay Hotel, which is located in Paradise, Nevada. And that's on the opposite side of Las Vegas Boulevard. On October 1st, 2017, Jason Aldean gave the closing performance of the third and final day of the festival. The event was attended by approximately 22,000 people. At this point, it seems as though Paddock fired multiple rifle rounds into the festival audience from two windows he had broken on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. The attack began during Jason Aldean's performance about 10:08 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Many people in the crowd initially mistook the gunfire for fireworks or something performance-related. The gunfire continued intermittently for around 10 minutes. By 10:25, a group of officers had reached the hotel's 32nd floor and locked it down. They announced themselves outside Paddock's suite, and he fired through the door, wounding a hotel security guard. At around 11:21 p.m., police breached the room with explosives. The perpetrator was found dead, having shot himself just before the police entered. At least that's how the story is playing out now. At 11:58 p.m., the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said that one suspect was down. A large quantity of ammunition and 23 firearms were found, including an AR-15 style and an AK-47 style rifle. Two of the rifles were mounted on tripods, equipped with telescopic sights. According to firearms instructor Masad Ayub, audio recordings of the attack indicated that the perpetrator probably used something called a bump fire device. That bump fire stock was also found in the room. The gunman was identified as Stephen Paddock, born April 9, 1953. He'd been living in a retirement community in Mesquite, Nevada. Police found 23 rifles and one handgun inside the hotel room Paddock had occupied since September 28th. According to police, Paddock acted alone, and his motive is unknown. As of yet, the police have refrained from describing Paddock specifically as a terrorist. He was a retired accountant and reportedly quite affluent. He owned and managed some apartment buildings with his mother. He had previous residences in Reno, Nevada, California, Texas, and Central Florida. He'd been a licensed private pilot since at least 2003 and had previously owned 2 small aircraft. He had a fishing license from the state of Alaska. Police, relatives, and neighbors described Paddock as a gambler. Police said he'd made recent casino transactions in the tens of thousands of dollars, but he did not specify whether these transactions were losses or wins. Stephen Paddock's father, Benjamin Hoskins Paddock, was a bank robber. He was on the FBI's most wanted list in 1969 after escaping from federal prison. He was removed from that list in 1977. We're not seeing it in the coverage by Wiki of this individual, but it is mentioned on certain other websites that at one point Stephen Paddock was employed by NASA, previously employed by the company that was purchased by Lockheed Martin Aircraft. We're pretty sure there are many conspiracy boats tied to the piers at this point, ready to set float. We just aren't quite ready to go there ourselves yet. But in the hours following the shooting, false information about the shooter's identity and motive was circulated by what's called here political fringe websites and internet forums, and going viral on social media. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones tied the shooting to a supposed, quote, communist takeover of the country, end quotes. The far-right website The Gateway Pundit misidentified the shooter altogether. They said it was Gary Danley, supposedly a Democrat. Google briefly highlighted this false report. 2 of Facebook's top trending pages were items from Sputnik, that Russian news agency. Google and Facebook have recently, of course, been criticized for prominently displaying fake news in their search results. Facebook later admitted, in fact, that their system automatically promoted fake Vegas massacre stories. They said they're working on it. A large portion of Las Vegas Boulevard was shut down as police SWAT teams combed the venue, the neighboring casinos, hotels, and businesses. McCarran International Airport, which was immediately southeast of the festival site, was closed for several hours. Multiple flights rerouted or canceled altogether. Some of those escaping the shooting, in fact, entered the airport property in large groups as they fled. Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval called the shooting, quote, a tragic and heinous act of violence that has shaken the Nevada family, end quotes. And all the usual politicos from our current president on down have sent condolences. Jason Aldean, who was performing when the shooting started, posted his condolences on Instagram, noting that all of those working with him at the show had survived the attack. And here's an interesting note. Stock prices of firearms manufacturers rose the day after this mass shooting. Somehow it seems as though the phrase, our thoughts and prayers are with the survivors and the lost, doesn't seem sufficient anymore. I'm going to have to find something else to say, or more specifically, something else to do, perhaps. But for the moment, let's look heavenwards, shall we, and watch for Mars and Venus this week. Yep, of course you have to wait till after dark, and it's always weather permitting. But here's what the folks at earthsky.org promise for the upcoming days. Before dawn around now, early October 2017, use the dazzling planet Venus to find the rather faint red planet Mars in the sunrise direction. You might need binoculars to see Mars in the same binocular field view of Venus right now. Fortunately, Venus and Mars will remain within a single binocular field for about a week, this first week of October. These two worlds will come closest together on the sky's dome on or near October 5th. At that juncture, the two planets will only be 0.2 degrees or 2/5 of a moon width apart. The rising time of Venus and Mars into the morning sky varies a bit worldwide. Just know that they rise before sunup in the sunrise direction. There is a chart if you want that exact precise time. You can find the chart later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Given an unobstructed eastern horizon at mid-northern latitudes, the planetary twosome rises about 2 hours before sunrise. At temperate latitudes in the southern hemisphere, Venus and Mars come up in the east an hour before the sun. Venus, that third brightest heavenly body after the sun and moon, outshines Mars right now by some 200 times. In fact, writes Bruce McClure, at present, Mars appears about as dim as it ever gets in our sky. That's because the red planet is now moving on the far side of the sun as seen from Earth, and moreover, Mars is just a few days shy of its aphelion, that farthest point from the sun. Great distance from the sun, and Mars being on the far side of the sun from us, means Mars is just about as far away from Earth now as it can be. And Mars may be faint now, but watch. In the coming months, Earth will be coming up fast on Mars in our smaller orbit, causing Mars to reach opposition July 27th, 2018. That's a wait. This world will be approximately 6.5 times closer to Earth at that point, and some 70 times brighter in our sky than it is now. In fact, 2018 generally is going to be a wonderful time to look at Mars. In that July 2018 opposition, Mars will become the fourth brightest celestial body to light up our sky, after the Sun, Moon, and Venus. It will be brighter, in fact, than king planet Jupiter. And that's because in that year, 2018, Mars and Earth will be closer than they've been since 2003. In fact, as 2017 comes to a close, you can look for Mars to climb upward each day in the eastern sky, away from the glare of sunrise. Meanwhile, you can also watch Venus fall closer to the rising sun day by day. And this means that, in the coming few days, you can watch for Mars to climb higher in the east than Venus. This great conjunction of Venus and Mars in the eastern morning sky favors viewers in the northern hemisphere, although it can be seen from the southern hemisphere as well. At mid-northern latitudes, you've got to get up at least 90 minutes, get that coffee, before the sun if you want to view Venus and Mars with either your unaided eye or an optical aid. Wishing you clear skies for the upcoming morning spectacle. Bottom line, the close conjunction of Mars and Venus, when they have the same right ascension, equivalent to earthly longitude, comes on October 5th, 2017. At that point, these two worlds are 0.2 degrees, or 2/5 of the moon width apart. And for space, that's close. Here's a heads up for all you gentle listeners in the Arizona area. You just might see something in the sky and not know what it is. Well, here's something it could be. Headline: World View successfully launches its first stratolight from its Tucson headquarters. Daryl Etherington writes this for TechCrunch. Stratospheric balloon launch startup company Worldview completed its inaugural launch from its new Tucson, Arizona-based headquarters. The new headquarters officially opened back in February, but since then it's been preparing the facility for regular launch operations, culminating in today's takeoff. It was a debut. Worldview is trying to carve out novel territory in the commercial space business by launching super high-altitude balloon craft which can operate at the upper edge of Earth's atmosphere for scientific, observational, and other purposes, while keeping costs well below those of low Earth orbit satellites. Worldview's stratosphere altitude would help with long-term site observation, weather monitoring, and even defense applications. The inaugural Tucson launch took place Saturday morning after a balloon fill test conducted in mid-August. This Tucson headquarters features not only launch facilities, but also offices, and one of the longest continuous tables in the world, which the company uses to handcraft its giant stratospheric balloons. Eventually, Worldview wants to be able to send balloons up that can even carry a passenger pod for stratospheric tourists and scientific crews. Worldview CEO Jane Pointer said the first launch from Tucson was, quote, another important milestone in our series of stratolight development and demonstration missions, which are helping us perfect our overall technology and operations as we move closer to a routine, long-duration, station-keeping stratolight platform, end quotes. And that's stratolight, spelled uppercase STRATOLLITE. The company recently celebrated a milestone of a record 27-hour flight for one of those balloons. Eventually, it hopes to be able to run commercial operations where balloons can remain aloft for months at a time. Yep, head on over to UFOheadlinenews.com later, take a look at the shots of that balloon, and then just sit back and watch as the UFO reports come in, which is undoubtedly going to be a spin-off. Here's a story from OpenMinds.tv, posted by Alejandro Rojas. Headline: Mysterious red blob photographed in the Louisiana night sky. An Open Minds TV reader in Bow Bridge, Louisiana, spotted something odd in the night sky and was fortunately able to photograph it. The photos show a strange red blob in the sky. He and his wife were able to see that blob with their naked eyes. Here's what happened. Patrick Malone says he and his wife were leaving the house when they noticed, quote, a faint red blob, end quotes, in the night sky above them. He decided to go back inside and grab a camera. He then took several photographs with 2 different lenses. He was using his Canon T21 DSLR camera. They watched the object for 45 minutes. Malone says he was not looking at it, but his wife was. She was trying to get another picture, and then the object left. Via Facebook Messenger, Malone wrote that she said, quote, "It did not fade, it just disappeared," end quotes.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Via email, here's the report that Patrick Malone sent to Alejandro Rojas. On the night of Wednesday, September 13th, at about 10 p.m., my wife and I were about to leave our house in Bow Bridge, Louisiana. Before getting in the truck, I looked up at the sky and noticed a faint red blob directly above. I said to my wife, "What in the heck is that?" She looked up and saw it as well. We stared at this thing for about 10 minutes before I even thought about attempting to take a picture of it with a DSLR. The entire time it was in the sky, it did not move, it did not shift. It stayed directly above us at about 90 degrees. It was at such a sharp angle that all of the photographs had to be taken freehand. I've included the best photos I have of this weirdism. All photos are directly off of the memory card and not edited. They were all taken with a Canon T2i. The pictures where the blob is zoomed out, those were taken with a Takamore 55mm lens, and the blurry zoomed-in photo is with a Vivitar 75-205mm. Both lenses are manual, non-electric. All the photos have about a 3/4 second shutter speed, so the blob is brighter in the photo than it actually was as seen by the naked eye. That's from Mr. Malone. Alejandro Rojas continues, "The pictures are fascinating. The object does look like some sort of celestial object, but it's awfully bright." Malone says a friend told him that a missile or a spacecraft launch could look like this, but he was not able to find a record of such a launch on that evening. Patrick Malone says he does not know what this is, and he'd like some help figuring it out. Alejandro Rojas checked the website heavensabove.com to find out if anything was in the sky at that time. There was a part of a Russian rocket, space junk. That space junk circled overhead at about 9:24 p.m., but it's thought that that would appear like a point of light crossing the sky, not like a red blob. So, for now, at least for the Malones and for Alejandro Rojas, the mystery continues. And he adds, if you think you know what it is, drop us a line in the comment section. Yes, gentle listeners, there is a section under openminds.tv stories where you can comment. Did you see it? Put in your 2 cents worth. Buckle up, find something to hold on to. We're heading over to ufostalker.com. We're going to zoom way up to Quebec City, Quebec, Canada for this sighting. It's MUFON number 87060. This sighting happened on the 23rd of September. It was reported October 1st. Here's the summary. Hovering light. There are photos that accompany this account. You can find those later at ufoheadlinenews.com. Do your own analysis. The viewing distance under sighting specifics, according to our witness, is not applicable. The altitude listed as unknown. The sighting duration 1 minute. Object features unknown, as is the flight path of this particular object, and its shape is described as other. In this case, the witness is not reporting this in the first person. Here's what it says, quote, "I didn't witness this myself as I am submitting it for a friend." Let's read. He and his father were hunting in a remote area of northern Canada. They had a hunter's camera set up for assessing game. This camera is motion activated. It takes 3 pictures a minute when it detects movement. The camera that took the pictures of the strange lights in the night, please note the AM and PM settings are reversed when the time was set. However, it's obvious that this is day or night. Also, the setting date is 3 days behind. Moving forward, the witness continues, "I have included the images taken before and after the light sequence. You can see that these lights are situated in the sky portion of the image, and the landscape hasn't moved, so there was no movement of the camera. This would rule out traces made by the moon on a moving camera. The camera was affixed to a post. The light was sufficiently bright to illuminate trees in the landscape, and we can see that these trees are not moving, so there was no camera movement in these night sequences as well. I have no information whether there was a full moon or not. Although they didn't witness this object, the father did see a bright light in the night when he momentarily woke up during the night. And another unrelated person at this event was in the area that weekend and also reports seeing a bright light in the sky. They list the coordinates here. If you want to find those later, they will be available at ufoheadlinenews.com. Says the witness, although I do believe we are not alone in the universe, as it is a statistical impossibility, I must admit personally I'm a bit skeptical about UFO sightings. However, in this case, I fail to have any explanation for these light traces. I don't believe a firefly could have made these. Perhaps you've already seen similar things and have an explanation. So what do you make of this? And it's signed by our witness who lives in Quebec, Canada. If you think you know if you've seen anything like it, there's another source for leaving your comments, your ideas. UFOstalker.com provides space at the end of every sighting entry. With just a couple of maneuvers, we can find our way south to Westbrook, Connecticut. It's MUFON case number 87056. This took place on the 29th of September this year and was reported October 1st. Here's what our witness offers by way of summary. Driving west on Route 1, noticed contrail-like clouds, started taking shots. Video then of rapidly moving object. More photos. Gradually enlarging the photos showed triangular object and short silver tube, creating a focused exhaust trail, but pixelated. Oh, yikes, that's just the summary. And there are those photos. You know where to find them. The sighting specifics include a viewing distance of over 1 mile, an altitude that was over 500 feet without cloud cover. The sighting duration, 3 minutes. Object features are listed as other. The object flight path was a straight line path, and this object was shaped like a bullet or a missile. There's weather. 68 degrees Fahrenheit was the temperature in Westbrook, Connecticut at the time of this event, 20 degrees Celsius, dropping down to a minimum of 46 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius. All of those usual visibility factors were, well, usual, 10 miles, 16 kilometers, and there was nothing abnormal about the weather conditions at the time. It seemed to go something like this. Driving west, exiting an old iron trestle bridge, I noticed a series of what looked like contrails, so I began taking photos. Rounding a curve, I noticed something rapidly accelerating, something leaving a long trail, so I took a few more pictures. I switched to video until this object disappeared, and then I went back to taking photos of its poofed-out puffs that were leaving several odd clouds. Later, gradually enlarging my photos, I could see a triangular tip, followed by a short silver cylinder section, which was creating this trail. What was really interesting is that as I further enlarged the photos and videos, the plume remained focused, but the object itself became a pixelated square, as if something was changing the presentation on my Samsung S7 cell phone camera. At first I thought it might have been an aircraft, but there was nothing about this object that could present that. It was moving incredibly fast for something that could be 50 to 100 miles away, possibly several thousand miles an hour. Fortunately, the photos and videos had landmarks to measure transit angles over time. So, yes, there we have it, some photographic evidence, a captured UFO, kind of. As the UFO flies, it's not very far from Connecticut to Delaware, so let's visit the city of Hockessin, Delaware, spelled Hockessin. That is the place where MUFON case number 87046 happened. The date of this sighting is 9/30/2017. It got a same-day report. In summary, light beam, very fast, visible for a second. Sighting specifics include a viewing distance of over 1 mile, an altitude over 500 feet or less. The sighting duration was 2 seconds. The object features, quite understandably, are simply reported as none, the flight path other, and the object is reported to have been shaped like a flash. There isn't any weather, so we'll plunge on ahead. I was at the end of my street with my dog on the leash, and then I went to change the song on my phone to something else. As I was changing the song, I looked up, and as I was stretching, I saw a huge beam of light shoot past me. The object, which I first saw, to me was a UFO, most likely. This object was moving very fast, and now, thinking back, most likely this object was heading in a north diagonal direction, northwest, basically. It sped past me very quickly, like I only saw this for 2 seconds. It was flying or moving, whatever you'd call that, at least 2,000 feet, but it seemed very close to the ground. Its motions are the only thing I can recall, and it moved very quickly, moving past me from almost the first second I saw it. My feelings during this sighting, well, they were feelings of terror and paranoia. And to me, it was a UFO or a spacecraft moving at fast speeds. What really set this in stone was when I texted a friend about it, and he said he saw the exact same thing in Florida. He also said this object was heading north. After I saw this, actually, I became paranoid. I ran up the street with my dog in my arms and locked the doors in my house. I even got a knife to hold on to, and I felt much safer. I would like to note that I'm filing this report only 50 minutes after the event. Yikes, a knife. Well, we can only say you had to be there. No judgment here. We're cut to the quick. The time indicates we've gotta fly, because that's a wrap. Follow today's broadcast at ufoheadlinenews.com. Loving kindness. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha 990. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.